Hello, everybody. Patrick Haggerty here. Aunt Patty's Lavender Hour. Today we have a really special guest. His name is Blackberri. Blackberri does gay blues. I think Blackberri started writing queer blues songs before I started Lavender Country. So he's been at it a really long time. Barry and I have been running together doing gay music shows for many decades, and we have a lot of other common interests. So here is my friend, Blackberri. You're born and raised in Baltimore, right?
I was born in Buffalo. I moved to Baltimore when I was 7.
Oh, okay. I heard your mom caught you singing to the radio when you were like 5 years old. Is that true?
Yeah, maybe even younger than that. But yeah, I can remember I loved Billy Epstein, and I loved the Ink Spots, and I loved, oh God, I don't know. There was a song called Ghost Riders in the Sky, and I don't remember who did it, but that was like one of my favorite songs too.
Oh, I sing that song myself.
Yeah.
I sure do. Do you have anything to say about your life in Baltimore? Or was it?
It was tumultuous, as you might say, because I was out, and people in Baltimore like to kill queer people.
Oh, So your life in Baltimore was tumultuous because you were out at such an early age.
Yeah. I found myself often running from gangs of boys who were either trying to stone me or trying to stab me.
I see. You mean really tumultuous then, don't you?
Yeah, seriously tumultuous. Yeah.
Did you ever feel bad about it?
No.
That's a good answer. I did. I was raised in a Catholic family, and even though my father was very supportive and all that, I had a lot of guilt about my sexual orientation because of my Catholicism. So you
No,
skipped all that. Cool.
no. But my mother wasn't a religious person, so I was about the same age. I was about 14, and I fell in love with one of my neighbors up the street, and he and I came out together at the same time.
So you left Baltimore and joined the Navy?
Yeah, that was the first time I left the city kind of permanently.
And then in the Navy, what happened?
Well, in the Navy, I met a lot of boys and men, and one of my shipmates turned me in. I think he was jealous because he had said something to me, because he did confront me one time and told me that I could do whatever to him, and I was not interested in him. So.
Oh, I see. That pissed him off, and so he went and turned you in?
Yep.
Because he couldn't get anything off of you? I think I got kicked out of the Peace Corps about the same time you got kicked out of the Navy. We were just in a few months of each other anyway. Was this about 1966?
It was actually 1967. Yep.
So after you exited the Navy, you went to upstate New York, right?
I went back to Baltimore.
For a few months or what?
Well, I was trying to figure out what I was gonna do, and I got involved in this boy I was hanging out with was dating a physician and who was giving him amphetamines.
Oh.
He was
And so
giving
you
them.
went off on a speed trip?
Yep.
Uh,
I went way off on a speed trip.
oh, you got way down and dirty into it, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
That's new information for me. I never knew you. I never knew you as a speed freak.
Yeah, well,
All
you
this
know,
time.
this,
You got rescued from that, right?
yeah, there was this woman who was a prostitute who worked the streets. She was really beautiful. Used to call her the Dragon Lady, but she was a dominatrix. She
Okay.
wore boots and she had the costume. That's how she was fabulous looking. She grabbed me. She caught me one night when I was on a run looking for drugs. But took me to her apartment and locked me in one of the rooms. And then her and her pimp got me clean.
Well, isn't that an interesting story? That's the reverse of of all the stereotypes you hear. She was supposed to get you into it, not out of it. So you came off of speed,
and
and
they decided that would not be a good thing for me to go out on the streets again, and they kind of kidnapped me. They they were going to drive me up to Millbrook, and I didn't know about Millbrook, or I didn't know that they were going to even leave me in this rehab program, but that's where they were taking me. They gave me a Pepsi that was dosed with acid, and I found it unusual because they had me on this special diet, and soda was not was not on that diet. You know what I'm saying? So I drank it, and it started coming on as I was traveling, and I didn't know what was happening. Yeah, it was weird. Anyway, we got to Millbrook, and I went into I entered the ashram, and
this was a rehab ashram.
yeah, well, there were a couple of organizations there. There was art clubs who lived in the front of the property. We called the Gatehouse, and he had this organization called the Neo-American Church, which he started. And then Leary lived there, Timothy Leary lived there, and he had what they called the Castilla Foundation. But his people lived up in the forest, in the woods. And there was a big house that he lived in, and it had lots of rooms and stuff. And there was also a carriage house, which is where the ashram was, and I lived in the carriage house for a bit.
So you were on the same property with Timothy Leary?
Yeah. I lived in the chicken coop until the weather got too cold.
Okay. So that's one of your claims to fame is you were interfacing with Timothy Leary, right?
Yeah, but I met a whole bunch of folks when I was there. That's where I met Ginsberg. When I actually met Ginsberg, and
Oh, you met Ginsberg.
I met him at Millbrook.
Oh, okay. Did you like Allen Ginsberg?
I loved Allen Ginsberg. Allen Ginsberg was responsible for me deciding to just come out and be totally open. I met Otto Preminger, and I met Charlie Mingus, and I even met some of the Mellons, the Hitchcocks.
Oh, okay. Well, that was an interesting part of your life, but I think the whole upshot of it was it got you off of meth.
Yes, that was definitely. In fact, the ashram where I was, where everybody there, except for maybe the guru, was we're all addicts. Everybody was clean and sober, of course, because
Oh, so they were all ex-addicts coming off of it, getting clean.
Yep. Yep.
The whole, the whole
Everybody
place.
everybody there was clean, so that
Well,
was not.
hey, it was a good thing you ended. It was a good thing you landed there. Yeah, and then you took off with some of those folks who moved to Arizona, isn't that right?
Yeah, we ended up in Arizona. We bought some property there.
That's where you like got a start, is doing gay music, right?
Yeah, that's where I got started.
I think we started singing about the same time then. And then you moved to San Francisco in '74. You were establishing yourself in San Francisco as a gay singer,
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
few, right?
Yep.
And then you met me in 1975 at the Faggots and Class Struggle Conference. Then shortly after that, I invited you up to Seattle to do a show with me with the Freedom Socialist Party and Radical Women.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, and that was our first show in 1975, and we've been hitting it on and off ever since, right?
Yep.
You were in the Bay Area for all this time, and you're still in the Bay Area. And so all this time you've been singing and working. And do you want to tell us a little bit about your AIDS prevention work?
Well, one of my tours, I was in New York, and I was staying with this artist, this poet named Asado Saint. This one particular time that I was with him, he took me to Christopher Street that were closed because the people who owned them or who worked there died of HIV, from HIV. So Christopher Street was looking like a ghost town. Seriously, there was a lot of death there, and and a lot of my friends started dying, and as I traveled, there was just a lot, and so I decided that I would take some time off, and so I ended up working in prevention, HIV prevention. I was being a counselor, counseling people who were testing for HIV, and then I started doing outreach to try to get people in for testing and to pass out condoms and to talk to people about education. And my outreach work consisted then of doing workshops. Prevention workshops, and I did a prevention workshop for men of color that was really popular in the Tenderloin where I worked. And then later on down the line, somebody was impressed with my outreach work and invited me to join them at the health department, and so I became I went into research into. And that's where I wrote a song for the first musical ad for the health department. It was a part of my study.
That was cool.
Did a song called Study Song.
There's a study about you and me, and the way we live in our community. It's a study especially for us. Come along and join the chorus. If you do that, you'll be making history.
Let's talk about Cuba.
I went to Cuba in, I think, 97, in the summer of 97, with a group called Queers for Cuba. You know, I did little music exchanges with other Cuban musicians, and I met a bunch of Cuban cultural workers and stuff. So, and I would play. We would go to the collectives where people were doing the campesinos were working. During the lunch, I would do concerts for them.
Oh, and this is all gay music, right? Yeah, things move very rapidly from the time I was in Cuba in '71.
Yeah, well, things were going pretty well there. There was this film called Strawberries and Chocolate. I think it was Strawberries and Chocolate, and that was the most seen gay film in Cuba. It was probably maybe even the most seen film, period. And there was a whole that started a really big dialogue. And
Yeah.
so, '97, I represented the United States at a festival. It was called the Music of at the Youth Festival. There was there were a bunch of stuff going on. There were the youth from all over the world. It was a communist youth festival.
Was this in Havana?
This one was in Havana. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Afterward,
It was a communist youth festival?
yes, I did a song called We've All Come Together, and it was an a cappella song. And then I sang Eat the Rich. And when I broke into Eat the Rich, they were dancing on the chairs, and it was really a big thing.
And your song "Eat the Rich" has been around a lot, and it's, also I want to point out to folks, it's on my new album, Blackberry Rose. You can hear Blackberry's song "Eat the Rich" there. And so let's talk a little bit about your spiritual awakening and development, because that's connected with Cuba.
Yeah, it is actually in '84. I read this book about Santeria, and really sparked my interest in it. Well, actually, even before that, what happened was Isaac Jackson had this show in. He's a poet, musician. He had the show on WBAI, and he invited me to come and perform on WBAI and the show in New York. But when I went to his place where I was staying, he had this altar to Yemanya. It was the first time I always say Yemanya brought me to the tradition, because his altar had this candle on it, this blue candle, and it burned 24/7. It never went out. And I asked him about Yemanya, and he said that she was the patron saint of gay men. And I went, a religion that embraces gay people? I was really, it's a big thing in Cuba, it's a part of the culture. It's built into the culture. I mean, it's just the way it is. One year I met a priest there who invited me to join his spiritual family, and I got initiated in 1999.
In Cuba?
Yeah, in Cuba, I became a Lukumi priest.
And so you are a developed practitioner of this.
Yes, 20 years.
Yeah. So you've been at it for a while.
Yeah, it's the best thing that happened in my life. I always tell everybody, it's my whole life.
It's a big part of your life.
It's a big part of my life.
So you've been back and forth to Cuba many times for a twofold reason: for your music and art, and also for your spiritual development.
Yes, exactly.
So you're going to do us a little bit of music today, right?
Yes.
Let's do that before we run out of tape, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay, let me get my guitar.
Yeah.
Got on the bus in Seattle, I was San Francisco bound. Drove to the back, thought I'd take a look around. Tried to decide by standing in the aisle, is it the boy with the book or the boy with the smile? Or the boy with the smile, say you sitting next to me. That's when I knew who exactly it would be. I sat by him, he gave a grin. And as I looked into his eyes, my heart began to spin. In the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, the back of the bus, in the back of the bus. I made love with us in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, the back of the bus, in the back of the bus. I made love with Gus. Yes, I did. Now, really, yes, I did. Tried to do it in the bathroom. It stank and it was much too small. Tried to do it sitting on each other's laps, but to the driver we would look too tall. But when we found a position that we could do it in, yeah. You said I waited for this moment, now it's you and I, just us. I wanna fuck you, baby, in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus. I made love with God, so yes I did. Now really, yes I did. In the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, in the back, in the back, in the back, in the back, in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus. I made love with God. Yes I did. Now really, yes I did. Further down the road, the book boy got off. We smoked your joint together. It was strong, it made me cough. You fell into my lap by moving to the aisle. You sat there for a moment with a silly little smile. And then you popped the question. You asked me if I was gay. I said yes. And you said that you knew it anyway. We wasted so much time, there is nothing to discuss. I wanna fuck you, baby, in the back here of the bus, in the back of the bus, the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus. I made love with Gus in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus, the back of the bus, in the back, in the back, in the back, in the back, in the back of the bus, in the back of the bus. I made love with Gus. Yes, I did. Now, really, yes, I did. We made love from dusk to the dawn. I tell you now, children, child, we really got it on. Babe, you came twice, and I came twice. And I'm very glad I listened to your very good advice. In the back of the bus, 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 in the back of the bus. I made love with Gus. Yes, I did. Now, really, yes, I did. In the back of the bus. in the back of the bus. I made love in the back of the bus. I made love in the back of the bus. I made love with guts in the back of the bus.
So that's based on a real experience, right?
Yes.
When you were riding the Greyhound from San Francisco to Seattle to do that show with me in
Oh, I
1975.
got on the bus in Seattle. When I was leaving.
Oh, it's going home.
Yeah, I was going home.
That's an interesting experience. So, Barry,
Yeah.
we've done 40 years worth of work trucking together. And you've done several Lavender Country shows with me. We worked with Teresa Stevens and the Out Band for a while in the early 2000s. You got to open the Lavender Country Ballet in San Francisco two or three times. And we've done, I can't remember all the shows we've done together, but quite a few. And we've been comrades in the struggle for many, many decades. And it would have been very difficult to travel the road without you. Let me say that. I'm really glad you were there.